exciting, mysterious, thrilling. I want to go run away on an island. So I'm going to read this. That's crazy. And like so many people don't like her books. Well, hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's McKenna, and I like to talk about books. Today I want to talk about books I want to read in 2026. It is almost the new year, new me. Well, honestly, kind of, because I actually personally like setting goals in the new year. I kind of set goals throughout the year all the time. And I also, doing my last YouTube video where I talk about all the books I read in 2025, I realized that I have a problem. And I am a little bit mentally ill, and I need to move away from simply brain rot books. I need to move away from books that are simply just pleasure, or I need to move away from only reading those types of books. That's what I realized in 2025. And in 2026, I want to have a little bit more of a diverse reading experience and become a little bit more cultured around the world. And I want to talk about those books and how I'm going to do that this year. Basically, last year, I realized that I read only romance and romantasy, and then classics from way before I was born. And there was no like a middle ground. Like there was no contemporary fiction, very little contemporary fiction, very little non-fiction, just a lot of fairies. There were a lot of fairies, yeah. A little bit of werewolves, some vampires. Going for a more diverse year this year, okay? In this video, I want to talk about all the books I want to read in 2026, some new upcoming releases I'm really excited about, and some book to movie adaptations that I'm very, very excited about. So I'm going to talk about all those three things right now. It begins with Beartown by Frederick Bachman. So I'm currently reading this. This will probably take me to the new year because I'm not reading as much just because I'm seeing friends and enjoying family time. But when I really like a book, when I really like an author, I typically try to read one or two of their other books just to kind of get an idea, maybe it was a one-off, maybe it wasn't, maybe I really like this author. So I'm reading Beartown, and this is about a hockey town, and it's about the boys club that is the hockey club. The whole town was riding on this hockey club, the success of this hockey club, and then an incident happens within the hockey club, and that's where I'm at right now. So I haven't finished it, but that's where I'm at with Beartown. It's very good. I'm really enjoying it. It is one of the first... it's one of the first fiction that is not romance or romantasy that has kept me reading and kept me sucked in, and honestly, all year. So I'm very excited about that. Frederick Bachman is well known, so I'd love to read his other books like Anxious People or A Man Called Ovi. So just a heads up, I might be reading those this coming year. And a book that I'm very excited about, I just got at the library, is Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. I've been seeing this one on the internet. I mean, this is huge. So I'm sure it's about many things. But this is a love story, and adventure, and an epic of the frontier. It's a Pulitzer Prize winning classic. Larry McMurtry also, I didn't really know who he was as an author, but he also wrote Brokeback Mountain. He wrote an insane amount of media that people just love. So I'm very excited to read this. It's going to take me a little bit though, if I'm being honest, but I'm very excited to get going. A few other books that I bought secondhand are Dubliners by James Joyce. All I really know about this book is that it's about Dublin and what it's like to live in Dublin, and its controlling sense of the truth of human experience as its author discerned them in a defeated colonial city. So I think this will be interesting. It's considered a classic, and I picked it up because I heard Cillian Murphy talk about it. So Another book that I got secondhand is A Passage to India by E.M. Forrester. This is a mystery about two British women who go to India and seek a tour guide through this doctor, but then an incident occurs and they have to figure out what happens. I'm very excited to read this. It is also considered a classic, and I'm excited to read a book that's set somewhere that I've never been. I get to learn about this place. Exciting. This is another huge one. Look at this thing. This is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. This is, again, another classic. I got this book at secondhand a couple months ago now. And since then, I've seen many celebrities talk about how this is like a must read for them. I think Jennifer Lawrence said that. And I love Jennifer Lawrence. One of the world's greatest novels, Anna Karenina, is both an immortal drama of personal conflict and social scandal and a vivid, richly textured panorama of 19th century Russia. God knows we all go through a little moral conflict, so I'm very excited to read this. I found 1,000 Splendid Suns at a little free library when I was home for the holidays, and this is very exciting. I read The Kite Runner in high school. Amazing book. And I keep seeing this on the internet as some of people's favorite books of all time ever. So I am very excited to get going with this. Both 1,000 Splendid Suns and The Kite Runner are set in Afghanistan. It's about the war, the effects of war. The Kite Runner was very, very moving, so I'm assuming something similar will happen with this one. I have never read anything by R.F. Kuang, and she is all over the internet. She is everywhere. So I have 3 of her books on queue at the library right now. I have Yellowface, The Poppy War, and Calabasas, her newest one. The Poppy War is a 3-book historical military fantasy inspired by the bloody history of China's 20th century. I'm very excited. I haven't read much fantasy outside of romantasy, and I think this is a good place to start. I've seen lots of great reviews about it. People refer it as some of their god tier series. And R.F. Kuang is obviously very well known now, and she has made a great name for herself in literature. So I'm excited to start there. Yellowface is about 2 rising authors, and one of them passes away, and the other author essentially steals her identity, puts her name on the other author's book, and positions herself so she's racially ambiguous to tell this other author's story. It's about book reviews. It's about the political landscape. It's about social media. I have read mixed reviews about it. I've read mixed reviews about all of R.F. Kuang's books, except for maybe Poppy War. A lot of people say that Yellowface she tries to it's like she thinks the readers are dumb and she tries to over-explain it. Whereas Calabasas is too academic. Calabasas is about academics who start spiraling, and people say that it's just much too advanced. The words are too big. It's almost being forceful with its academic language. So I'm very interested to get into her books and form an opinion of my own. There are 3 books on my to-read list that are directly from content creator Jack Edwards. I typically like his book reviews. I think he's amazing. I think he's hilarious. One of them is directly from his book club. It's Evenings and Weekends by Ocean McKenna. This is set in London during a heat wave, and it's about people, it's about relationships. I love books like that. I love books that feel like you're just in with some friends and you're hanging out with some friends. So I hope that this is what this is like. And 2 other books that I took directly from him are Rejection by Tony T. He says it might be his favorite book of the year, a sharp and satirical response to the online loneliness epidemic and discourse. And the final one is Talking at Night, and he referred to it as invisible string theory. It seems like it's a bit of a romance, or it centers a loving relationship and how they keep reconnecting over the years. And I love a good book like that. 2 other books that I'm very excited to read this year is Wild Dark Shore. I have seen this book literally everywhere. Every single bookstore that I walk into, it's right there. I haven't seen it that much on the internet, but I've seen it marketed in books. It is about a family on a remote island, and then a body washes up on the shore. Exciting, mysterious, thrilling. I want to go run away on an island. So I'm going to read this. And finally, I'm not going to veer totally away from romance and romantasy. I find that when I'm commuting to work and listening to an audiobook, I need something that's a bit easier to understand. And I find that those are romance books. I can keep focused on the road while listening to romance, whereas I wouldn't be able to do that with a much more complex book. So I do want to read the Crown of Nyaxis series, starting with The Serpent and the Wings of Night. That is the only series I really have on my mind right now. Three brand new releases coming out in 2026 that I'm excited for are Half His Age by Jeanette McCurdy. So Jeanette McCurdy wrote I'm Glad My Mom Died, her memoir. I haven't actually read it, but it got rave reviews. It was very well acclaimed. So I'll probably read that one first and then read her new fiction book coming out. It is apparently about a 17-year-old girl who has an affair with her teacher. I typically hate these stories. Like, I hate when inappropriate relationships appear in media, like in Pretty Little Liars or Riverdale. Like, those aren't necessarily critically acclaimed media, but I'm interested to see what Jeanette McCurdy has to say about it, because she's coming from like a perspective of a child star, so I'm sure she has something interesting to say, and I hope that it moves the needle on this conversation. Like, I hope that it brings something new to this perspective, and it's not just kind of romanticizing something that's completely inappropriate. The next is Whistler by Anne Patchett. I loved Anne Patchett. I got into her books this past year. I read Tom Lake and The Dutch House. I love Anne Patchett's writing style. It is that like buttery, smooth, soft writing style. Her books feel like a comfort blanket to me. They're really well written. They're emotionally poignant without like completely devastating you in a good way. Like, it just makes you feel like soft and warm and fuzzy on the inside. And Whistler is about a woman who reconnects with her stepfather after many, many years. So I'm sure it'll bring some more warm and fuzzies. She has an uncanny ability to tell family stories. Like, she's really good at linking families and getting familial perspectives. The next new release is John of John by Douglas Stewart. So Douglas Stewart wrote Shuggie Bain. I read Shuggie Bain maybe 2 years ago now, and I didn't like it. Really wasn't for me, but I can acknowledge that Douglas Stewart is a great writer. I just didn't connect to the characters of Shuggie Bain, but I do want to read John of John. This is about a young man who moves back to his home island and reconnects with his father, even though they have very differing opinions. So I'm excited to read that. I'm sure he will be able to do a story like that justice. There are lots of movies coming out in this new year that I'm very excited about. I'm going to talk about a few that are being adapted from books. And these are not all of them. There's going to be way more. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but I'm going to talk about a few that I'm excited. First being The People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry being turned into a movie for Netflix. This comes out very soon. I'm not sure why it's like this summary book about vacation that's coming out in January. Like, it'll probably, I guess it's there for seasonal depression. It's there to cure us, okay? You know what? Maybe that was a good idea. Oh my God. Yeah, okay. I'm interested in seeing how Emily Henry's kind of like quirky, unique characters are translated onto the screen. And Tom Blythe is in it. That's exciting. Wuthering Heights is coming out by the same director who made Saltburn. So I think it'll be interesting. You know, I think it's supposed to be like this gothic tragic love story. And Saltburn was an Saltburn had some very sexual scenes in it that were a little bit gross. So it'll be an interesting take. And I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it, Wuthering Heights. I really loved the book. It was one of the books that got me into classics. So we'll see how it turns out on the big screen. And we have The Sunrise on the Reaping coming out on November 20th. I will be sat in the theater a month before, and I will just sit there waiting for The Sunrise on the Reaping. I'm so excited. I hope one of the issues that I had with the Mockingjay movies is that it felt like they focused too much on the action and not enough on the actual meaning of the story, which is a anti-war book and a book about trauma, and they made it about the action. Catching Fire was about the action, but then they kept that same story type for Mockingjay, but even though Mockingjay is a completely different story. So I'm interested to see, or I hope that they do this one with more justice. I hope that this one it's about the action, but I also hope that they really drive home like the real meaning about the book. And finally, 2 Colleen Hoover books are getting adapted, Verity and Regretting You. The only reason I want to say that Colleen Hoover has been getting that bag lately. Holy smokes. It Ends With Us. She had a new one come out recently. I forget what it's called, but it has McKenna Grace in it. Dakota Johnson and Anne Hathaway are going to be in Verity. That's crazy. And so many people don't like her books. I mean, so many people love them, but they're not critically acclaimed books. Anyways, will catch up on my Colleen Hoover movies just for fun. Those are a few books I want to read in the new year, and a few movies that I'm excited to see, and some new releases that sound fun. That's the end of my video. I like to talk about books, pop culture, movies, bookish culture. If those things interest you, subscribe to my channel, and thanks for watching.